Welcome to Laptop Radio. Today's topic is In Tune with Your Cyclic Nature at Work, and we have Vanessa Castro with us. Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Michelle. So great to be here with you this evening.
Yes, awesome. Where are you located?
I'm originally from Costa Rica, have been traveling for a few years, and at the moment I'm in Berlin. My house now is in between here and Costa Rica.
Awesome. I love Costa Rica.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. I love Costa Rica too.
What
Mhm.
is your story?
So my story that I'd love to share with you today, because we have many stories, like we are like a tapestry of stories weaved together that make us like who we are, right? And I love that in one of those threads we met in one of our stories, and that's why we're here tonight. So wonderful. And in tune with your cyclic nature, what's my story around that? So when I was a late teenage girl, I started looking into, oh, if plants have a cycle, where is my cycle?
Mhm,
If when you know that it's rainy season in Costa Rica, you bring an umbrella
mhm,
because you know it's rainy season,
mhm,
so it could rain. If you live more in the northern hemisphere, then you would know when it could snow and you would prepare accordingly.
mhm.
And if nature had these different phases, where was my cycle as a female living in a body or as a human also? And then I realized, oh, it's my womb. It's my womb. And there was the menstrual cycle, and I had a lot of information, mainly on biology,
Mhm.
like pre-ovulation, ovulation, like that. And I focus mainly in my body because I am my own guinea pig. So I'm going to speak about beings inhabiting female women body
Mhm.
despite how you choose to identify yourself. Excuse my language, I'm inclusive. It's just that for me, being English my second language,
Yeah,
to get better. I mean, like in a learning curve to learn how to speak in a way that is inclusive.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I had during that time, then I realized that, and then my life went on. I was in university, and then I learned that there were times when I had more mental focus. There were times when I could be very great, like at hiking a mountain. Other times I would be like, oh my God, I'm like super tired. Like it was like this same person, same age, and the only thing I noticed it was my menstrual phase.
Mhm.
And but there was no information. I really didn't find information, and at the time I didn't really get the idea of, hey, look at the internet. I don't know why because I had access to it. And then my life went on, and I later on I started working with a startup company called Game Changers 500, and we were creating new list of companies that was going to be like the new Fortune 500. And these companies aim to use business as a force for good to create impact at different levels: company culture, on technology, on recycling for the environment, in like eco-minded materials, for example, remarkable customer care, freedom focused workplace, tribe culture, etc. And here I was, but this was global. And here I was helping create evaluation matrix questionnaire to measure purpose and to measure change and innovation. And even though these companies were very edgy, I still didn't see any improvement or any consideration
Mhm.
for our female body,
Mhm.
and that we bleed. Like we
Mhm.
bleed at work.
Mhm.
We might be bleeding at work.
Yeah, that's true.
And then all these skill set that I have discovered was is like basically thrown in the garbage every month. There is a time during the month that we naturally think outside the box.
Mhm.
And this is the time when you are less patient. And this is a great time if you're in a project and you're stuck in a project and you need help. We are naturally good at it.
Mhm.
Kind of like going skiing when it has been like a great snowstorm. So
Yeah.
after that, it's great to go skiing. It's like We are naturally better at this. And then we have another time when when we really enjoy chatting and talking and communicating with others and look for win-win situations, and other times when we feel more competitive, and usually at that time we just gather a lot of projects and then we feel like, oh my god, what am I gonna do after? Oh, I committed to so many projects. Oh, because you feel overwhelmed, because we don't have the same energy. We are not linear. So that brought me a lot of passion to bring this topic that is also a taboo. It's like, it's crazy. It's the 21st century, and bleeding, menopause, and other things related to our cyclic nature continue being a taboo sometimes.
Why do you think it's taboo?
Because I feel that it's not spoke much.
Mhm.
Even like I've been talking about this for a few years now, and sometimes you get this look at the people like using the menstrual cycle in business, huh? Huh? Like, did I hear the two things together? Do they really could go together? Could
Mhm,
they could there be really be a key for reaching your success in a way that is more relaxed and fulfilling?
mhm,
So what I bring is an idea, is a proposition for us to discover and to test, because I feel that we just need to give ourselves the freedom to choose, so that we don't act in the automatic, this is the way, this is the way, but we give ourselves the chance, and we can try this and we can see if it works for us, and if you feel better, and if you feel more energized, and if you feel more in alignment. Because what you then, once you start to know this, then you start going skiing when is the right time to go skiing, right?
yes.
And of course, we live in a world that is not going to match the tasks or change subject for when we feel more ready to do it. But because we have the awareness, we could prepare and also have more compassion. Sometimes we are very, very hard on ourselves because I didn't do it as good as I did it 2 days ago. Yeah, because we've changed. We're not the same.
Mhm. What are some of the skills that you think is very important to work depending on the phases of the cycle?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So this is a great question. Thank you so much for asking. And I like to also mention that this goes, although I use the menstrual cycle as a point for starting, because we got to start somewhere, to introduce the topic. This also is helpful for the ladies that are already growing up to after the last bleeding, which is called menopause. I like to call it Sophia. Sophia is the goddess of wisdom. And we as women, as we continue growing up, we become more wise, and we become more complete and more confident.
Mhm.
And so I took this term from an author, English author, that I'll share about her more later. Her name is Miranda Gray, and I love the way she described it. So for those women who are towards Sophia or after Sophia, this is also helpful, because sometimes we repress aspects of ourselves and then we forget that we have them. And by looking at the cyclic nature and the gifts that each phase brings to us, then we could see which areas we have lost touch, which things were very part of us and we've forgotten. Sometimes we like painting and then we stop painting and we realize, oh, it's 20 years ago since I painted anything. And I remember I loved it, I was great at it, just to name something.
Mhm.
So some of the characteristics, I'm gonna take us in a journey here, and we're gonna start just to start somewhere because it's a cycle.
Mhm.
So we're going to start in pre-ovulation phase. And again, the physical cycle is just a start point to explain. This goes beyond the biological cycle. Women that sometimes are on the pill or on another type of contraception, they still share with me that they've experienced these changes. So it goes beyond hormones. I feel that is something very innate to us. And thanks to women around the world that practice this, then we get more feedback. And on pre-ovulation is an we have an energy more dynamic. The pre-ovulation phase, or this dynamic energy,
Mhm.
has a lot to do with mental focus, to-do list, is the superwoman that can do everything and anything, lots of logical thinking in the way that we enjoy it. And that we enjoy like being focused for long term and for long time, and is when we get super overcommitted because we can do everything and I have the energy and everything. And then as we continue to move, we get to ovulation, and in the ovulation is a more expressive phase in the, and it's expressive still outwards. So before we had a motivation more of because I want to do it because I can and like that. And then the next one, the most expressive phase on during ovulation, is we are also motivated, but we also want to include others. So we want to do it because it's going to be good for the planet, it's going to be good for other people. We also are great mediators during that time. So to have meetings and being like seeing two perspectives and trying to get the best for both, the best for all, that's a great time. We're naturally good at it.
Mhm.
And as we continue moving, then we get to the premenstrual phase. Some women have a very interesting relationship with the premenstrual phase because they say, "Oh, I changed so much." It's like one of the phases they notice the most because they feel that their mood goes up and down, and it's because it's part of the energy during that phase. At that phase, we would experience a lot of stamina and then like nothing. It's like zero. You went into the up a high peak and then down like super quick in one day. And this is a very creative phase. I like to say that thanks to the women that were in the premenstrual, perhaps we got the idea of voting, perhaps we got the idea of thinking about rights for women that were unthinkable at that time. Because when we think about voting, like when I try to just put myself into that position, only men vote, only men, only men's word is valuable in that society. And then you think about a woman voting, it's like somebody telling me like go to Pluto or something. It's like what? Like yeah, it's very, 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 it's like out there. And at this moment, our creative energy is so potent that we could get a lot of new ideas for our projects. Is I don't know if it has happened to you that sometimes you feel like you want to organize and there is like this drawer that like, if you don't see it totally organized you can't sleep. That's usually
That's me
the
all the
urgency. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, yeah, it all the time,
Yes.
right? I'm naturally type A, so and sometimes I try not to be,
Yeah.
and it's really hard. I mean, all my emails are organized by different things, and my closet is organized by different color,
Yeah.
and my home is almost like a show house. And when I was doing startup, I reversed that. So I consciously make myself live like a boy.
Mm-hmm.
Where things are messy, where I would go on a trip and I would just throw the bag. And that has to be learned because I had to learn to be imperfect. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I was someone who I had a 4.2 GPA in junior high. I think all my math class is 100% every
Mm-hmm.
living in kind of that kind of perfection. I basically had to reverse it. And because I think it doesn't work when your life is perfect, you don't take risk and you don't learn
Mm-hmm.
how to take risks and live outside of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
As part of learning the unknown, I have
Yeah.
to learn how to be messy,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So then I can be organizing and not organizing and live in that kind of gray area.
Wow.
Is that normal? I really don't know, but I think that is true. Like I constantly wanted to organize something and do something and I would not sleep unless I finish it. But at the same time, I learned that behavior consciously.
And also, and you exactly, and you learn it for yourself. You choose. It
Yes.
was a choice. You were like, okay, I'm being too strict. I want to do something outside of my comfort. I'm going to be a little bit messy because that's was your way also of growing.
Yeah, it's my growth.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit my job. I really don't know how much people need to survive to live, because I was living in a bubble. I was asked, do you want to live comfortably or do you want to live on the edge? I think living on the edge sounds like a lot of fun. Part of living on the edge is really doing things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
People tell you to save money, right? And that's what
Mm-hmm.
all the money books say. You're basically taught to go to school, get a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But startups is really about not following any of those, and you're really on your own. You don't know, I'm a woman, right? And 2% of women get funded. You have to be comfortable living in the unknown. You're basically building something when you know that the chance of being funded is next to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care about the material stuff because I want to build something, and I don't really care about material stuff, right? Possessions and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So that didn't matter already. And finding the right team, you don't know who the people are because all of a sudden you don't have like a filtering process. And you have to really embrace living in that kind of culture where,
Mm-hmm.
well, no, but yet again, when we talk about nature and the cycle of combining that to work, I think it's good because you're open to possibility.
Yeah.
Because you're continuing to grow and you can combine the two. You can combine the startup with your more structured lifestyle, and you can see when the nature goes into a pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you messed up, but yet that's okay, because you do certain things
It's
well,
part
right?
of the learning. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that learning and that growing and relearning, because I think I found myself having to unlearn a lot of the things that I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Unlearning is a big part of the growth process.
Yeah,
Let go of the things that already serve their purpose, and so that we have more space to grow and to have new beliefs, new things that work for us and that feel right and that feel good.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so good.
There's a lot of exclusion of women. I mean, I was surprised too because I used to work with a number of women
Mm-hmm.
in the organization, and out of it, being in the startup world, I realized how different it is. I think I see more women at a workplace in a company than
Mm-hmm.
in the startup world. And the whole exclusion of that is it's just amazing. I was really surprised, but I don't see how, because I'm grown up with brilliant, really smart women.
Mm-hmm.
And I had professors at Berkeley who are excellent. Even then, I consciously took classes that were taught by awesome women with the original thought. If startups are about innovation, why aren't women there? Because I think women are original and we have natural abilities, I think, that could help in businesses.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like it's this set of skills that we're repressing because we're trying to be the same every month, like every day of the month.
Mhm,
And then we also add a lot of stress in our bodies because we're trying to be something we're not,
mhm.
someone we're not. And even like when we bleed, for example, that you feel like some women tell me, oh, I was in so much pain during my bleeding years, or I am in so much pain. When we take our time, our body, during when we bleed, our body naturally wants to go inwards.
Mhm.
It's time to go to nest, to have more time to relax. And sometimes we cannot relax because we have a very important work day or we have a presentation or something. But it's just the awareness,
Mhm.
just to have that awareness. Oh, I'm bleeding. My body might need 5 more minutes in the morning
Yeah.
for my big day. I'm to get ready. I'm gonna give that to myself. I'm gonna make my favorite tea for myself. I'm going to pamper myself because this time of going inwards give us the gift every month to revisit what we're doing from like a third perspective view,
Yeah.
kind of like an eagle view, that the eagle sees like all the panorama. So it gives to us connection with our projects and with our life, that when we allow that time is like a normal, like a natural meditation, like nature sends us, okay, go into like a meditative state,
Yeah.
something like this. And we get the opportunity to see and reflect on our life. is my life going in the way that I want? Am I actioning? Am I taking action in my soul calling? Yes or no? And
Yes.
what could I do different?
Yeah.
Is this space for reflection?
I find it to be so true. Like when I have my period, I feel like I'm super sensitive and I see insights that normally people won't see. I'm able to write and reflect internally. Like I can write essays internally in my head
Mm-hmm.
at that time because I'm very expressive, like you said. So
Mm-hmm.
I have like a 10-page paper in my head. And
Wow.
yeah, and because you have superpowers, even though it doesn't seem like it that I'm doing anything externally because I'm resting, right? Because you need to
Mm-hmm.
self-govern your body. And I think
Yeah.
self-love and self-care is kind of like self-governing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you need to take care of yourself in order
Yes.
to function. And I think that that feeling of worthiness, feeling worthy as a woman in the context of everything that the social construct put at you, I guess, you need to self-govern. And that part of self-governance is really resting, taking it easy. However, internally, you're expressive. So when that time comes, I just basically naturally write papers in my head and have different insights. And it's really awesome because you're expressive and you're so sensitive that you see things that
Mm-hmm.
no one else could. And it could be anything. I mean, it could be a technology, it could be community, it could be something
Wow.
else. Yeah. And then I think it's amazing.
It is we're amazing. It's like we are a walking cycle. We are experts in change, but we try to be the same sometimes
Mhm,
because we are taught, oh, you always need to be accomplished, always need to do, accomplish. It's like this productivity focused approach that we tend to live in.
mhm,
And through our cyclic nature, then we navigate and we dance with different natural abilities that support us in being healthy and in fulfilling what we need.
mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, you really think about like the bigger picture, the weather
Hmm.
has different cycle. I mean, even the sun and the moon, every
Yeah,
day we have days
yeah,
and nights,
yeah.
and so is the body.
It's a great point. It's like the moon. So the moon, if we go out, let's say that we go out today and we look at the moon, okay? Then we go out tomorrow, we look at the moon, we won't see much difference.
Mhm,
But if we go today and then go in a week, we would see the difference. And it's the same for us. If we live and don't pay attention to us, then we won't notice the difference. But when you start to pay attention and making notes, you would see that you're changing skills and you would see what's true to you and how you want to be true to your nature and how you want to benefit from it.
I wanted to ask you about self-love and self-care though, because I think there is a wellness movement, especially now. And it's getting
Mm-hmm.
more and more important because I think social media has changed that, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
everyone just wants to be a fan or follower of someone and they don't want to be different. And being different is almost a bad thing because you're disrupting and people feel uncomfortable. And so people don't like you. When you're not liked, you may not have a lot of friends, you may not have a lot of followers. And I think you can become very unpopular. However, I think it's really important to be different and be unique and have a different identity. And I think it is okay. So, what are some of the practical ways to self-care and self-love in
Mm-hmm.
relation to that cycle?
Oh, thank you. That's a great point because so I feel like it starts with awareness. So you open your mind, your heart, your being to explore yourself in the sense that you're not going to put yourself in the boxes that you were taught in
Mhm,
family, in society. You're going to explore you and be like, okay, is this true that I need to be doing? Is that the only way?
mhm,
Or is it true that I like nature? Change.
mhm,
Do I experience that? Is that true for me? So if you have that awareness,
mhm,
then to me, that's the first and more important step. Because then is when you are like, maybe there is a new way, a different way that would help me feel more healthy, more empowered, more myself,
Mhm.
that would not stress me out, that you I won't feel overwhelmed. For example, also because sometimes we have so much input that for us it's like so that awareness would also help us. Oh, I'm in a phase, I'm feeling myself, and I really don't feel like to have all that input.
Mhm.
And sometimes we cannot stop it because we need to go somewhere where there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of talking. But because you have that awareness, you're going to be more gentle with yourself.
Mhm.
And that's going to make a big difference because you're not going to have the voice in your head talking, oh, you should have done this, oh, you should have done that. You're going to be loving and kind with yourself.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is planning.
Mhm.
Planning, because once you start knowing yourself, and like you know now, you were sharing that when you bleed you get all these like 10-page document on your head, and that is like an expression but inward. So you know that, but you know that perhaps to get a 10-page document on another time of the month it takes you like 3 weeks or maybe not. So you would know that, and you would, instead of doing it, if you can choose, so if you know that you need to have a paper for in 2 months or something, instead of doing it, trying to do it and force it, and you wait and you do it when you can. And also you plan to have a little bit more of free time. For example, when you bleed, then you can plan
Mhm.
to do laundry, to do the things that we need to do to have a functional life, perhaps the week before or the week after, so you can have more time for when you bleed. This is just an example, just planning to see if you can match the time to the times when you're feeling more in alignment with that. But before that, you need to be aware of what works for you, or what abilities you feel more in tune. And then the third one is trust.
Mhm.
Because when you trust yourself and you trust that you are worth it, and that you are an amazing being that is unique, and then there are going to be ways that work for you really good, and that you have skills that are very good, and that if you don't bring them out then humanity won't have those gifts,
Mhm.
then you won't feel like a threat the change of living in a cyclic way, if that works better for you.
I think you brought up a really good point, and I was just really think about, when I was in college, how my
Mm-hmm.
perception was versus how I feel about that today. In terms of trusting myself, I've been very confident growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of like normal for me. But I
Mm-hmm.
think in terms of focusing on what other people think, and what you're doing for humanity, I think that's a big difference. Like, for example, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people are afraid of public speaking. And I have done Toastmaster even when I was at Cisco, and it was a lot of fun. And I think even when I was at other companies, I've purposely or consciously, even though I wasn't required, I would take a lot of
Mm-hmm.
public speaking classes just for fun. After I left those companies, I did improv.
Wow.
So, because even though I'm not nervous or afraid, I just want to do it again for fun, and I just end up laughing every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I speak now, just like you, I don't focus on myself. When I speak, I'm more conscious of the audience, I'm more conscious of the people and how I could help, how I can contribute to the community. Right.
Yeah.
As I grow older, I recognized that the body and the human body, the brain and everything, it's more powerful than
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It has its systems and neurons and everything there, that my brain can remember everything that I need to know and that I can use. It will come to me because I not only do I have a conscious, I also have a subconscious. And
Yeah.
anything I don't know, my subconscious will
The subconscious handles like a
everything.
lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
And in some and in some way, I feel like the menstrual cycle is kind of like the subconscious
yeah.
of society, because wherever there is a woman, there is the menstrual cycle.
Mhm,
And there are all these changes.
mhm.
So it's like something that is constantly happen, but is not being acknowledged.
I think there's a fear among men or other in society because I think it's a social construct. Growing up, I took DOS and science and physics
Mm-hmm.
and molecular cell biology and calculus and chemistry. I used to tutor chemistry and calculus to high schools when I was in college. I don't understand the entire thing about STEM and STEAM and why women cannot be an engineer, why women cannot be an artist.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that. And now, and it seems like I was hoping that society would progress. And I think STEAM and STEM has become very popular in school. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I had a certificate in grade school, it just basically says chemistry or calculus or whatever I was taking.
Yeah.
Math. And I don't understand why because we have superpowers, are not acknowledged. And I wonder if there is some kind of fear. I mean, what is it about women that people are afraid of and that we can't do certain things? What is that?
Yeah.
I really
I really don't know. I really don't know, but I know that we're here and we're ready to, for ourselves, like to show through our self love what we're capable of and to find new ways of doing things with love, with compassion, and with inclusion. And for the men that are listening to us, I want them to know that I'd love to also have the opportunity to explore what I'm doing for men. It's just that because I've been my own guinea pig, then I focus on women because I'm my own guinea pig. I totally see a world or a society where women together with men and all including everyone that identify different construct a society that is good for all
yeah.
and that is good for mother nature, that is good for the future children, for our grandparents, for everyone. For me it's something that we do together because together we have unique skills that could put into place to build that, right?
Yeah, and I work with a lot of men actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I love them. I love working with men because a lot of people think that men hate women, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean,
No, no,
yeah,
me
they've
neither.
been really supportive of me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think throughout my career, I think they have been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I love working with them. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes women don't like other women. And I don't know about you. And sometimes I see that, right? So you'll have a look, if you dress a little bit differently, sometimes women can be very competitive of other women. Like I've been in groups where a woman would basically give a business card to everyone around me except for me.
Oh.
Yeah, my male friends were there, so they saw that. And you know what I mean? Like sometimes guys don't believe that until they witness it. I think it just really depends on the person. I
Mm-hmm.
think men have emotions too. And they
Oh
have
yeah.
insecurities on their appearance,
Mm.
on their work, how they're making money to support their family. We're just humans.
We're humans, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And then we're imperfect. So when we are in our cycle, sometimes we messed up and we might say things that are wrong or hurtful
Mm-hmm.
because we may be a little bit sensitive. And I think men get sensitive too. And
Yes.
I think forgiveness and that self forgiveness is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Compassion,
Yeah.
kindness, being gentle with yourself. It's very, very important. Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we'll become very judging because sometimes you could focus on self love and self care, but you forget about self acceptance. That
Mm-hmm.
phase,
Mm-hmm.
I am sorry, please forgive me.
Yeah.
I love you, thanks. And it really speaks to that because Vanessa, I could be really critical of you. How could you think of this idea? How could you even talk
Yeah.
about cyclic nature at work and be judging? However, sometimes we forget that we too, as humans, make mistakes. When we become more self accepting, we also become more accepting of other people.
Yeah.
And people are really critical of, startup world of other founders. And sometimes it's hard to judge because they try their best. And startups are hard. If you work under a founder as an employee or or as a team member, what do founders really, really think do? Will they have
Yeah.
funding? What kind of teams would they recruit? You could be really critical of them, or
Yeah.
you could be really supportive because it's hard. You don't know until you're a founder yourself.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, working with the with that startup that I work with, and then being in touch with other were already established companies. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I have a question about tracking. So, how do you actually track better so that you could align your cyclic nature with work?
One suggestion is to just have a diagram. Like it could be a circle or it could be a list, and you could make it very easy. Like on in a piece of paper, you write day one, and you say, okay, yesterday I stopped bleeding, so I'm gonna start day one is going to be the day I stop bleeding. Whatever like we have different stopping bleeding ways, and so you just choose which one is going to be for you for the practice.
Mhm.
So you decide that today is your first day without bleeding, so you write day one and you make yourself a note. Day one is the day I stop bleeding,
Mhm.
because sometimes you forget about it. When did I started? When I bleeded? When I not? And then, or you could also start when you bleed. When you bleed is day one.
Okay.
So regardless of what you put as day one, then you can start tracking perhaps how much physical energy do you have. And that's all you track. So you don't feel overwhelmed with all this new stuff. And so from 1 to 10, how much physical energy do you feel? And then you put a 7. Okay, that's it for your day. And then tomorrow again, and then tomorrow again. Just do it at the same time. Perhaps you could choose to do it when you wake up or at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and then after a month, you would see how you changed. If you had the same amount of energy, if you had some days the same amount, then a drastic up and then a drastic down,
Mhm.
someday up down. Like how was it for you?
Mhm.
That's how you could track. There are also apps that you can where you can track. You just in any app store put like a menstrual cycle app, and there are going to be a lot of apps that are doing something like this now. And also, I'd like to share with you about a book that this is also part of my story,
Awesome.
because when I was still working at that company, I said, I can't believe that nobody is taking into consideration the menstrual cycle.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the research, even if it's going to be when I'm 70 years old. I want to share this with women.
Mhm.
It's not possible that we continue not taking these skills into consideration.
Mhm.
To me at that point was like no. And then I met this by synchronicities of life,
Mhm.
by the same way that you and I met,
Mhm.
synchronicities of life. Then I met this author from England, and I said, you know what, she's written a book like 30 years ago about the uses of menstruation, about the gift, about the spiritual sexual gifts of menstruation.
Mhm.
She wrote this book something like 30 years ago. And because I knew she was in this topic, I share with her. I really want to bring menstruation and the topic of menopause, but the uses in business, because I see that it has a use. You could really use it to accomplish your goals. And
Mhm.
she said, yeah. And I've already written a book about it. And I had no idea.
Mhm.
So at that time, I was probably by year like 9 studying my cycle, and now by year 4 or 5 doing research in companies that are using business as a force for good.
Mhm.
Some of the companies and are global.
Mhm.
So, for example, in San Francisco, there is the recycling company. What's the name? Recycle. Oh, I forgot the name, but the recycle company in San Francisco is like an example globally because of the way like they recycle basically like everything, I think, right now.
Awesome.
Too bad I forgot the name. But also like Apple is there because of the creation of the iPhone, that it was totally breakthrough technology. And yeah, this book could be a great tool. And I use the vocabulary to share. I use the vocabulary of the book. My at that time I only had the idea and I knew how it worked for myself, but I didn't have actually vocabulary to share it with others. And the book is called The Optimized Woman,
Mhm.
and the author is Miranda Gray. There it comes with a 28-day program,
Mhm.
and you could follow it. It's very easy, very practical, and I could send you the link also if you want to include it.
Yeah, sure. That would be awesome.
Yeah, for women that would like to deepen more into this topic, that's a book that I highly, highly recommend. And that's my passion. I love to talk about the topic, to bring it, to explore it, and to together bring a new way, a new paradigm for working women.
Awesome. That sounds beautiful. And is there anything else you wanted to share that I have not asked you?
Oh, just my gratitude, Michelle, for giving this space to this idea, to this topic, and to myself, to my passion that hopefully helps and serves a lot of women, and then through that also a lot of men and children, because then they're gonna have happier and happier wives, happier companions, happier mothers, happy aunties. Yeah.
Happier friends,
So
sisters, especially.
happier friends, happier sisters. Absolutely. Yeah.
Happier
Yes.
sisters as well, definitely. And
Yes.
what is one piece of advice you would like to provide to the community?
Oh, I feel to be aware
Mhm,
that you are important and that you have a lot of value to give, and to create a good world,
mhm.
to create a good world. So to please go for it, because you can do it, and you please be aware of that, of the
Yeah,
power of one, and that
yeah,
together we are, yeah, we
yeah,
will bring change.
yeah. And I like practical things that people can do to bring awareness. And like you can journal or
Yeah, yeah.
journaling.
One way is journal. And this we could do also depending on the phase of the cycle that you are. For
Mhm,
example, for me, when I'm in pre-ovulation, so right after I start bleeding, journaling works great. Then for the next phase, it works better doing things like dancing is a way for me to create awareness in my body. Also dancing when we were able to do it,
mhm.
dancing with other people. Being from Costa Rica, I love dancing salsa. I
Yeah,
love
me too.
Latin dances.
I love
So that
Latin.
was a way for me to create awareness. Other people, I had a woman once told me she loved to karaoke.
Mhm,
So that's another way for her to create awareness. So just look at what is for you. During premenstrual, one way for me to create awareness is to paint, to do a craft.
mhm.
The other day I started to knit, and I thought that, oh my god, I totally forgot how to knit. So that's a new thing I want to get back on. And then when bleeding, for me to create awareness is more like meditation,
Mhm.
just contemplation, nothing mental that is like heavy mental, like not too much guided meditations or breathe in, breathe out one, breathe in, breathe out two, or more like contemplation, contemplative meditation, like observing the flower, observing the clouds, observing the rain, feeling myself, how do I feel, thinking about beautiful memories. That's the way I create awareness.
It's
Yeah.
I've been doing that every day since I've been home. Just really noticing.
Oh,
I'm like, well,
wow.
yeah, because you have to like. There's a bird right now in the
Yeah.
window, and there's trees, and the sky is blue. The food is delicious.
And then to do this, you gotta create time for yourself. So sometimes we feel like we don't really have time, but if a project comes in for work, then we create that time from we don't know where, but we created it. So be as committed as you are for other things, for the time for you.
Awesome. Thank you,
So
Vanessa.
yeah, that's very, for me, that's key.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.